The night I died, it wasn't supposed to matter. At least, not to her. Rain poured relentlessly over the city, turning the streets into mirrors of flickering neon lights. I stood outside the Grand Hotel, soaked to the bone, staring at the glowing windows of the top floor. Her engagement party. Not ours, hers. 10 years. 10 years of loving her, protecting her, standing beside her even when she looked at me like I was nothing more than a shadow she couldn't escape. And tonight, she was celebrating her future with another man. I let out a bitter laugh. Guess this is how it ends. Just as I turned to leave, a scream tore through the air. Then, an explosion shattered the silence. Flames erupted from the top floor, swallowing the windows in an instant. Panic spread like wildfire below as people ran, shouting, crying, pointing upward. My heart stopped. Top floor. That's where she was. Without thinking, I ran. Inside, chaos ruled. Smoke filled the air, thick and suffocating. Sprinklers struggled to control the flames, but the fire had already taken over. People pushed past me, desperate to escape, but I forced my way forward. She was still inside. Even after everything. Even after the cold looks, the rejection, the silent hatred she carried for 10 long years. I couldn't leave her. I found her in the corridor, trapped. A fallen beam blocked her path, flames closing in from both sides. Her white dress was stained with ash, her usually perfect composure shattered. For the first time in years, her eyes weren't cold. They were afraid. Ypsilon, you? She whispered when she saw me. Of course she was surprised. Why wouldn't she be? I was the man she never wanted. The one she blamed for everything. You're going to be fine, I said, even though the fire roared louder behind me. I pushed the beam aside, ignoring the searing pain burning through my hands. She stumbled forward, coughing, her body trembling. Why are you here? She asked, her voice breaking. You should have just left me alone. Like I always wanted. I paused for a second, then smiled faintly. Yeah, I know. That was the truth. She had made it clear for 10 years. She hated me. Hated the forced engagement. Hated the past that tied us together. Hated me for something I never got the chance to explain. And yet, I couldn't. The ceiling cracked above us. Time was running out. I grabbed a hand and pulled her toward the exit. Flames licked the walls, heat scorching every breath we took. Step by step, we moved closer to the stairwell. Almost there. Almost. Cresci. The ceiling collapsed. I shoved her forward just in time. She fell through the doorway to safety. Didn't make it. The world turned red. Pain exploded through my body as fire swallowed everything. I could hear her screaming my name louder than I had ever heard before. Disperaci. Broken. Tolaci. As my vision faded, one thought echoed in my mind. If I had another chance, I wouldn't love you the same way again. Darkness. Silence. Then, a heartbeat. I gasped, sitting upright. The fire was gone. The pain, gone. Instead, I found myself staring at a familiar ceiling. My room! 10 years ago. My hands trembled as I looked at them and burned, untouched. Alive. A slow realization crept in. I came back. Then, footsteps rushed toward the door. And a voice. the one that once held nothing but coldness. Open the door. I need to see you. But this Chimi, it sounded desperate, begging. And for the first time, everything was different. When I opened my eyes, the first thing I noticed wasn't the light, it was the silence. No sirens, no screaming. Fire. Just calm. My chest rose sharply as I gasped for air, instinctively reaching out as if flames were still chasing me. But instead of heat, my fingers touched something soft. Bed sheets. I froze. Slowly, I looked around. A familiar room. My room. The same plain white walls. The same desk cluttered with unfinished work. The same cracked photo frame on the shelf. No, this isn't possible. I whispered. My heart began to race, not from fear this time, but from confusion. I jumped out of bed and rushed to the mirror. And there I was. Alive. Not burned. Not broken. Not dying. Just me, the version of me from years ago. My hands trembled as I touched my face, almost expecting it to disappear. This is before everything. Before the rejection. Before the cold words. Before the night I gave my life for someone who never loved me. I stumbled back, trying to process it. Suddenly, a memory hit me. Her voice. Cold, distant. I never loved you. You were just convenient. My chest tightened. Even now, those words cut deeper than the fire ever did. I clenched my fists. If this is really a second chance. I looked up again, my reflection staring back at me, but something had changed. My eyes. They weren't the same as before. There was no innocence left. Only clarity. Only truth. I won't make the same mistake again. Just then, my phone buzzed on the table. I turned slowly, staring at it like it was something dangerous. The screen lit up. Her name. For a moment, my heart betrayed me. It skipped. Not out of love, but out of habit. I picked up the phone, staring at her message. Can you come to campus today? I need to talk to you. The same message. The same day. The beginning of everything. This was where it all started last time. This was the day she would reject me. My grip tightened around the phone. A part of me wanted to go. To see her again. To hear her voice. To confirm if this was real. But another part of me, the version of me that died in that fire, he already knew how this would end. I closed my eyes, taking a deep breath. This time, I wouldn't chase her. This time, I wouldn't beg for something that was never mine. I placed the phone back on the table. Unread. Unanswered. For the first time in years. One chose myself. I walked toward the window and pulled the curtain aside. Bright sunlight poured into the room. Warm and peaceful, so different from the flames that had consumed my last life. A small, bitter smile formed on my lips. You said I was just convenient. I whispered softly. Well, not anymore. Outside, the world moved on like nothing had changed. For me, everything had. Because this time, I wasn't going to save her. I was going to save myself. The first time she saw me again, she froze. It happened on a quiet afternoon outside the company building. I had just stepped out after finishing a meeting, something I never imagined doing in my previous life. Back then, I was always behind her, always chasing, always invisible. But now, things were different. I walked past the glass doors, adjusting my watch, my expression calm. And then I felt it, that gaze. Heavy, familiar, shaking. I turned slightly, and there she was. Her! Standing a few steps away, holding a folder in her hands. But her fingers were trembling so badly that the papers inside were almost slipping out. Her eyes locked onto mine. For a moment, time stopped. In my past life, I had spent years waiting for her to look at me like that, desperate, confused, searching. But when she finally did, I felt nothing. No warmth, no excitement. Open, just silence. She took a step forward. Wait. Her voice was softer than I remembered. Fragile, almost broken. I paused, but I didn't turn fully toward her. What he said? I asked, my tone distant. That distance, it shattered her. I saw it clearly in her eyes. She wasn't used to this version of me. In her memory, I was the man who would stop everything just to hear her speak. The one who would smile no matter how cold she was. The one who would never walk away. But that man died in the fire. She hesitated, clutching the folder tighter. Feel like something's wrong. I said nothing. Her eyes searched my face desperately. It's strange, she continued, her voice trembling. Every time I see you, my chest hurts. My fingers tightened slightly at my side, but my expression didn't change. She stepped closer. Have we met before? The question hung in the air like a knife. Milais volhai beter remember. For her to understand me. For her to just see me. But now, she was the one searching, and I was the one hiding. I finally turned fully toward her, meeting her eyes without hesitation. No, I said calmly. We haven't. The lie was clean, sharp, final. Her lips parted slightly, as if something inside her broke at that moment. But, she whispered, shaking her head, that's impossible. Why does it feel like I lost something important? I looked at her for a long second, and for the first time since my rebirth, a faint emotion surfaced. Not love, not anger, just pity. You're overthinking, I said quietly. Focus on your work. Then I walked past her, just like she used to walk past me, steppy by steppy, without looking back. But this Chimi, she didn't move. I could feel it even without turning her standing there. Frozen, her world quietly collapsing. Because for the first time, she was the one being left behind. And as I stepped into the sunlight outside, a strange feeling settled in my chest. It wasn't victory. It wasn't satisfaction. It was something colder, something heavier. Because deep down, a small part of me knew this was only the beginning. The city had never felt this cold before. Not because of the weather, but because of him. She stood outside the towering glass building long after he had walked past her. Her fingers still trembling from that one moment. Tuan look. The way he had stared at her, calm, distant, unfamiliar, it felt worse than anger. Worse than rejection. It felt like she no longer existed in his world. That night, she couldn't sleep. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw him again walking past her without hesitation. No pausi, no emotion. Bess, have we met before? Her own voice echoed in her head, fragile and uncertain. And his response, a polite, almost indifferent smile. I don't think so. That sentence shattered something inside her. The next morning, she found herself standing in front of his office, building again. She didn't even remember deciding to come here. Her heart pounded as she stepped inside. The marble floors reflecting her anxious steps. Employees passed by, busy with their routines. But for her, time had slowed. She approached the reception desk. I need to meet him. The receptionist looked up, professional but slightly confused. Do you have an appointment? She hesitated. I'm sorry, ma'am. He doesn't meet anyone without a prior schedule. Of course. He had always been like this, disciplined, structured, unreachable unless he allowed it. But back then, she never needed an appointment. Back then, she was his world. Days turned into a pattern. She kept coming back. Every morning. Every evening. Sometimes she would just stand across the street, watching the building like it held the answers she desperately needed. And then, one day, she saw something that made her chest tighten. He wasn't alone. A woman stood beside him, elegant, confident, walking in perfect sync with him. She smiled at something he said, and for a brief second, he smiled back. That smile. It wasn't cold. It wasn't distant. It was real. And it wasn't for her. Something inside her broke completely. So, this is it, she whispered to herself. He moved on. But the strange thing was, she didn't feel anger toward the woman. She felt anger toward herself. Because deep down, a voice kept repeating the same painful truth. You let him go. That evening, rain began to fall. She didn't move. Standing outside his building, soaked under the downpour. She didn't care about the cold or the stares of strangers. All she cared about was him. Hours passed. Then finally the glass doors opened. He walked out. Alone this time. Their eyes met again. This Jimmy. Something was different. She didn't hesitate. She walked straight toward him. Steppy by steppy. Until she stood right in front of him, rain dripping from her hair. Her eyes filled with something raw and unfiltered. I remember you. Her voice shook, but it didn't break. You may not remember me. But I remember everything. For the first time, he didn't walk away. He just stood there, looking at her. Silent. Unreadable. The rain fell harder around them, as if the world itself had paused to watch this moment unfold. 8 years, she continued, her voice barely above a whisper. 8 years. And I never realized what I lost. Her lips trembled. I thought you would always stay. A long silence followed. Then finally he spoke. Calm, controlled, distant. People don't lose what they value. The words hit harder than the rain. Her breath caught. And if you truly remembered, he added quietly, you wouldn't be standing here now. He stepped past her. Again. But this Jimmy. It wasn't just distance. It was a choice. And she felt it. For the first time, she understood something terrifying. He wasn't just forgetting her. He was choosing to let her go. She didn't turn around. Didn't call his name. Didn't chase him. Because now, she finally understood the weight of what she had done. And for the first time in her life, she was the one left behind. In the rain. Alone. With nothing but memories. That came too late. The rain hadn't stopped. It poured like the sky itself was mourning something neither of them could fully name. She stood there, frozen, her heart trembling with every breath, watching him turn his back on her. Again! Wait! Her voice was weak at first, almost lost in the sound of the storm. He didn't stop. That's Chimi. Not like before. Her chest tightened, panic rising like a wave ready to drown her. This wasn't the same man, any more the one who used to turn around at the slightest call of her name. The one who used to stay, no matter how much it hurt. This man had learned how to leave. Please? She shouted, her voice breaking. That made him stop. Just for a second. The silence between them stretched longer than the distance separating them. Slowly, he turned around, his expression unreadable. His eyes no longer filled with the warmth she once took for granted. I remember, he said quietly. Her breath caught. I remember everything. The words hit her harder than the rain. Her legs almost gave out beneath her. Tears streamed down her face, mixing with the storm, but she didn't care anymore. Nothing mattered except the truth standing right in front of her. You remember? She whispered. He nodded slowly. Not all at once, he continued. Just pieces at first. A feeling. A voice. The way someone used to look at me like I was their entire world. His gaze locked onto hers. And then, I saw you cry. Her heart shattered all over again. That's when it came back, he said. Everything I gave you. Everything you threw away. She took a step toward him, shaking. I know, she said, her voice trembling. I know I was wrong. I was blind. Thought they always stay. I thought I had time. Her voice cracked as she reached out, her hand stopping just inches from him. But I don't want time anymore. I just want you. The rain softened, as if the world itself was holding its breath. For a moment, he didn't move, didn't speak, didn't reach back. And in that silence, she felt it the weight of everything she had done. Every moment she had ignored him. Every time she chose someone else over the one person who never would have left her. I waited for you, he finally said. Her eyes filled with fragile hope. For years, he added, even when it hurt, even when you pushed me away, I stayed. His voice didn't rise, but the pain in it was louder than any scream. And when I finally learned how to let go, he paused, his jaw tightening. That's when you came back. She broke down completely. I'm sorry. She cried. I'm so sorry. I didn't know what I had until I lost you. He really looked at her for the first time since everything began. And for a moment, just a moment, the old warmth flickered in his eyes. It faded, not because he didn't care, but because he finally loved himself enough to choose differently. You didn't lose me, he said softly. You let me go. The words cut deeper than anything else. She dropped to her knees, her strength gone, her heart laid bare in the rain. So, this is it. She whispered. He stepped closer. Not enough to hold her. Just enough to be heard. This is where it ends, he said. A tear slipped down his face's first. But not where I break again. He reached into his pocket and slowly pulled out a ring. Her breath stopped. For a second, hope exploded inside her chest. Until he gently placed it in her hand. Not as a promise, but as a goodbye. This was meant for a future we both destroyed. he said. The rain finally began to slow. He stepped back. And this, Jimmy. He didn't stop. Didn't turn around. Didn't hesitate. She watched him walk away until he disappeared completely, just like he had once feared she would do to him. Only now, she understood. Not every love story ends with people finding their way back to each other. Some end with one person finally choosing themselves. And for the first time, he was Faye. She thought he would always stay, but she never realized he was learning how to leave.